Make us,
Hold up, sorry.
making us look so professional, dude.
Come on, guys. Haven't you done this 3 million times before?
Oh, yeah. So, on today's episode of Sit Up by the Fire, today we have...
Simon Phillips.
Yeah. And we're interviewing you because you're playing Mickey Mouse.
That's right, yes.
Or
So I should flag up, that's not the only thing I've ever played. But today it's Mickey Mouse.
Well, technically, because trademark.
Well, yes, it's Steamboat Willie's Mickey Mouse. Just, in case those old Disney lawyers are listening.
Yes. Question number one. What are some of your favorite movies?
I'm a big sucker for The Thing. In terms of like horror movies, it's definitely got to be up there. Fallen, I like. I like. I guess what I'd call them is maybe not complete gore horror, like, but a bit more cerebral horror. I was always quite a fan of the first Saw movie, but maybe not where they went to after that. But yeah, I mean, I like those sort of things. My absolute favorite movie, I think, is still The Professional, where Leon was a bit more of an action movie, but I love Gary Oldman. So.
Oh yeah, great actor, and
yeah,
one of those very versatile actors that could play great villains and great heroes. So.
Yes, definitely, he's just like a chameleon like that, isn't he?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
So now this is more of a question in case anybody wants to maybe do something with Mickey Mouse. So explain to the people, for the folks here at home, what you can and cannot do with Mickey Mouse, just to play it safe, because we don't, like we said earlier, we don't want the Disney lawyers coming after average Joe filmmakers. So
yes, I mean, I don't know if I'm the absolute expert on this, so I wouldn't be taking my advice particularly. I'm not a lawyer or anything like that. But the earliest iteration of Mickey Mouse, the one in Steamboat Willie, dropped out of copyright and into public domain on the 1st of January this year. It means that that footage specifically, actually that movie, that short movie, is in public domain. So you can use that in your other movies. So if you wanted to have an actor watching the movie, you could have that now, but then you wouldn't face any challenges. That footage... sits in public domain. The character, of course, also then sits in public domain because this is the first iteration of the character. I should probably flag up that Disney have still got a very active copyright on the later iterations of that same character. So if you want to do something with a Mickey Mouse, you can do it, but it must be the Steamboat Willie Mickey Mouse.
Yeah, and make sure that you... what I would advise anybody to do is at least have a warning labeled, like, warning, this is not by the Walt Disney Studios.
Yes, that's the other thing. I mean, the one of the big things that you got to avoid is what they call brand confusion. However, if you're making like a Mickey Mouse horror movie, I mean, Disney don't make horror movies, so it's unlikely to be confusing. But you should still have a disclaimer at the beginning, as we do on our movie, that says this is not a Disney movie.
Exactly.
Definitely, yeah.
Just play it safe.
Exactly.
So, question number 3, favorite actors / actresses.
Oh well, Gary Oldman, as I said earlier, Leon. Yeah, that's a no-brainer for me. He's just
we already said Gary Oldman, but what are some others? So
I only have one up there, I'm afraid, which is Gary Oldman. So I don't really have a list of top 10 people.
Any actresses?
And actresses, like I'm always a fan of. I would have loved to have done something with Judi Dench or Helen Mirren or one of these like great old RSC stage actresses, sort of that have really cut their teeth and, just give such commanding performances. And they're obviously they hail from the same place as me. So they've managed to make themselves sort of Hollywood names, but still retain their very British identity. And I quite enjoy that.
Yeah. I mean, us Americans probably only know her really as M, but she was a good M. So
yes, I mean, she was good in whatever she did. So that's that. But she lent. I think what you'll find is when they when they get an actor of that caliber, what they bring to it is instant gravitas. They have an authoritative, sort of, and you're like, man, I don't even know what she's saying, but it sounds very good, sort of, and believable. And that's when they pay these guys the big bucks, it's because they're very convincing at what they do. And they're very good at their job.
Yes. So, assuming Disney won't sue us, can you do a Mickey Mouse voice for us or no?
I definitely cannot do that. Yeah.
Do you want to attempt to?
No, not at all. Not in the slightest.
Well,
But one little bit of me wants to open that gauntlet. Thanks very much. It's like somebody chucking a hot potato at you, going, "Here you go, Simon. Did you fancy maybe just trying to be sued for doing an impression of Mickey Mouse?" No, thanks. Cheers.
Oh darn!
Hey, that's you, man. That wasn't me.
Yeah, exactly.
And that is totally fine.
Yeah.
My voice anyway in the Mickey Mouse. Well, you haven't seen the movie just yet, but it's not a Mickey Mouse impression. It doesn't sound like Mickey Mouse. And number one, Mickey Mouse didn't speak in 1928. Steamboat Willie, so he doesn't actually have a voice. And the voice that we gave the character is nothing like what you would think Mickey Mouse would sound like.
Well,
in a movie to see that.
Well, I mean, he made a few like some grunts and some reactions, but like a full-on sentence, no.
No, yes. He did have some what I would call sound effects. Sort of.
Yeah.
So, what are some of your dream roles as an
I've been like very lucky. I don't really have dream roles. I'd call them dream jobs, as in like work. Sort of my dream roles are usually with other people. I've been very lucky in my life to, I've done movies with Mark Hamill, Jean-Claude Van Damme, Bruce Willis, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and I've shared the screen with all these guys.
Wow.
These guys are getting. These guys are getting pretty old, right? And they're, they don't make these sort of stars anymore. I'm missing Sylvester Stallone. So if I tell you, if I get into a show with Sylvester Stallone, I'm just retiring. That's it. I'll have collected all the '80s icons.
There you go. Well, hopefully, Eric, we can get an interview with his daughters, and then we can cook him up with Simon.
There you go. See, that's how it happens. It's just knowing the right person at the right time. That's So that was. That forms a lot of my, not necessarily dream roles, but like as I say, dream jobs. And they tend to be, because obviously you hope that a bit of their magic, falls off of them onto you, and you get one day you're the very experienced actor, sort of, and you, like some little kid is looking up to you, sort of.
Who knows? Maybe. We need more actual action movies, so maybe you could be that.
Maybe that's the thing. I've always fancied myself though as not the hero, the bad guy. That's why I'm a bit more Gary Oldman, a bit more perhaps the villain in some of these things.
Yeah. So, let's see. What's been the most enjoyable though? Honestly, about I guess playing Mickey Mouse in a horror movie based on Mickey Mouse,
Well, look, it's a ridiculous concept, So let's not take it too seriously, Sort of, it's a Mickey Mouse slasher movie, for want of a better words. I mean, and the fun part of it is making a movie with my very good friend Jamie Bailey, who's the director. Sort of, and it's always fun collaborating with him. It's and we had, if people have half the fun watching it that we did making it, then it's going to be a good time. So it's just you get to, I don't do this. I don't do any other job. This is my main job. So I guess what's fun about this is that I get to play dress up for a living. All my siblings and my family and stuff like that, they have real jobs. Like they go to work every day and sort of things like that. And they probably look down at me at Christmas because they're like, Simon's still playing dress up for a living 20 years later. So that the fun part of that is that I keep getting to do that.
Well, sounds like a great job. I mean, Eric.
It's cumulative as well, right? It's one of those jobs, being an actor, right, that gets easier the more you do it. I mean, that sounds obvious, but like it actually gets because you end up doing jobs, like you end up doing things with higher profile people, and then one day the phone just rings a bit more often. Then you're like 20 years ago you were struggling to get into it, and then you're like, you have to manage your diary a little bit later, you're going, all right, okay, I'll do this, and you get to do like fun things. Like I don't know if you guys watched the show The Witcher on Netflix. I got to do an episode of that.
Yeah,
Those are really fun worlds just to pop in and pop out to. You don't have to do the whole commitment, but it's nice to 20 years ago I would have killed for that kind of job, and now you have to kind of slot it in. You go, all right, I can do. Yeah, I've got time to do this. I definitely want to do this. I love this. But in my wildest dreams, I would have never. I should tell you a little secret. I shot my episode of The Witcher and my episode of Fubar, which is Arnold Schwarzenegger's other Netflix show, in the same week. That's how I was struggling to make sure if I fit it in, because one of them filmed in London and one of them filmed in Toronto in Canada, and I had to get between both places in the same week. And I was worried that The Witcher was going to take longer than they said it was going to take, but it didn't, because then I would have had to be that nightmare scenario of choosing which massive Netflix job to take, and that would have been a nightmare.
I guess did you I'm kind of done with my question, but I have a little bonus question because you kind of brought it up. I just thought of this off the cuff here. Did you get a chance to meet Arnold, and what was he like, though?
Oh yeah, I mean, if you get a chance to watch the show, Fubar, I'm actually the very first person that Arnold Schwarzenegger has a scene with. We have the whole opening scene together. So Arnold Schwarzenegger has never done a TV show, and as he told me on the day, this was his first TV show in the first episode, and I'm the first person he speaks to. We have a whole big scene, obviously, and without giving too much away, I'm a bad guy. I'm a bad diamond dealer, and it comes down to a fight between me and Arnold Schwarzenegger, and well, I'm sure you can guess who wins that.
Yeah,
totally you.
Yes, I mean I wanted it to be me, but they didn't take any of my suggestions.
Well, that's a shame.
I mean, it's one of those. I mean, Arnold Schwarzenegger, by the way, is one of the most generous people in the world. He's got time for everybody. Everybody, like the makeup artist. He had time for everybody on set, and nothing was rushed, or anything like that. And we had a great time making that show. And I was very, very lucky to be in it.
I did. I saw it. I actually liked the show, and but I thought it was a fun, like, Arnold.
I think that's what it was. It's like, to me, it reminded me of a movie Arnold Schwarzenegger would have made in the 90s.
Yeah.
Which in my mind is the golden Arnold Schwarzenegger era, to be honest. So to me, it was just chopped up into a TV show, and that, that was absolutely fine.
In a weird way,
True Lies, the TV show.
Yeah, that's what I thought. In a weird way, like Fubar is the True Lies spiritual sequel in a way.
It is, even though there's actually a True Lies TV show. Did you know that?
Yeah, but
I had no idea.
I don't think it's without denigrating anybody that's involved with it, but I didn't know that until I said it in an interview once, saying it's like True Lies, the TV show, and they were like, "Oh, there is." You don't say that. There's actually a True Lies TV show. Well, I was like, I had no idea. I didn't know that.
I guess all I'll say is that, hey, this is the spiritual successor to True Lies.
There you go.
The TV show, and the other one, you can watch it. Cool. So, Eric.
But yeah, so before I get into that, one of the things that I do find inspirational about Arnold is the fact that people are telling him, "Oh, you can't make it. It's because you're from Australia." Well, knowing that he definitely proves all those people wrong. So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it can't have been easy for him, but this guy is just like, he's just laser focused, right? He's from Austria, and they were like, well, you're never going to be the biggest bodybuilder in the world. You're never going to be Mr. Universe, and then he was. And they're like, okay, well, you're never going to be a Hollywood actor because you've got that very thick accent, and and then he was. Well, you're never gonna get into office, in government, and then he ran the 8th largest economy in the world. The guy just just keeps. If he could have run for president, I think he would have got it. If he could have, but he just legally he just couldn't run.
Well, hey, I mean, his kids are still young, though. I guess we'll wait and see what happens.
Well, yes. I mean, I hope they've picked up his work ethic because I would tell you the guy has got focus and energy. Like I think when he did the show, he's like 74 years old. With me, sort of. So he's probably 75 now. But he's the guy is just focused, and you're like, yes, that's why that guy made it. Sort of is just his absolute. He's not like a bully. He's not like talks over everybody. He's just laser focused and just knew what he was doing.
I think he's going to be 77 this year.
Is he? Okay, right. So I've got the age totally. Well, anyway, listen, he's got more energy than the average 40-year-old. I'll tell you that right now. Oh,
yeah. Well, I mean, at the fact that he still works out at Gold's Gym every morning. So
yeah, he's just he's that guy though. Sort of he's just no quit.
Oh, definitely, yeah. And so I will correct myself. I could have swore he was from Australia.
Austria, yes, yeah.
Heard of Austria, so yeah, I do apologize.
Boy, Eric, didn't you make a Dumb and Dumber joke there?
Even though that I totally did not intend to.
I know.
So yeah. So anyways, with that aside, assuming that the different companies are willing to cross over, would you ever consider having Mickey's Mousetrap ever cross over with like the Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey?
Oh yeah, I mean, I think we should. I can't probably say anything about this. No, yeah, I definitely can't. Sort of, you know what? Watch this space. I think there's something. You're not a million miles off where I think we should all go next. I definitely shouldn't have said any of that. Yeah. All right. Yeah. I can't. Right. Next one. Forget about it. Forget I said that. Now I'm going to be in trouble. Fuck.
All right. Well, I didn't hear anything. Did you, Eric?
No. Matter of fact, I'm not even sure what you're talking about, actually.
Good. I'm not sure. You know what? I'm on very heavy medication. I'm not sure what I'm talking about either.
It's all good. But yeah, so.
So am I.
But yeah, so what were some of your favorite Mickey Mouse cartoons as a kid?
I mean, like I remember Fantasia, sort of, and I remember being like sort of swept up in that a little bit, sort of like I found it magical. The first time, I'm not from America, so I went to Disneyland when I think I was 10 years old, and I had. I'm older, right? So there was no internet. Like, I mean, I'd never seen anything like it in my life. It was amazing. Disney is amazing, sort of. They've just got this magic about them, and they just made kids cartoons. I don't even remember the names of the Mickey Mouse cartoons, but I mean, just I'm sort of a fan of all of it, really. It was, they just created magic. And they really did, sort of. I mean, we're all like, well, Disney's this big company. They are, but they did what they did very successfly, sort of. And they made children's entertainment. I mean, arguably they invented children's entertainment. Like sort of, sort of. I don't know who else you would see as a trailblazer in that, from the 1920s. But they had this idea that they would make children laugh, and they would entertain children. When they couldn't sell it to children. And they were smart enough to know, well, if we sell a theater ticket to a child, we're selling two because we sell it to the parent as well.
Exactly.
So every one we actually get double. And they were very smart on that. But I think they made it with a lot of heart. Even though it's a big company today, I mean, you can still feel the magic of a Disney movie. Like, I mean, I know it goes through its processes now, and it's a bit maybe more formulaic than it used to be, or whatever. But I mean, it's still, there's definitely some exec, somebody, or is constantly asked the question, does this feel like a Disney movie? And that's what they mean. Does it feel that way? Like, does it feel big and adventurous? And there's sort of like an innocence to it as well. It's like a childlike innocence and adventure. And I think that's what makes all of those things. Even Pixar, when that was an exciting time, I think, way back in the 90s, obviously now, but when Toy Story came along and sort of took Disney, Pixar to another level, sort of, and they still made those very, they managed to bring sort of inject a new sort of bloodline into Disney's sort of aging formats, I guess, sort of. But I think they moved wonderfully.
Well, Eric and we're old enough to remember when Toy Story came out. We were about 4, so we both.
Oh
were.
yeah.
I'm probably a bit older than you chaps, you see, sort of. So yeah. I remember it too.
Well, and I think the closest park that you were, the closest park to you would be Disney Paris or Euro Disney. So
yes, but of course I'm older than that. So I also remember a time when that didn't. When I was first at Disney, Euro Disney didn't exist.
Yeah.
So you have to, there's, I don't want to say how old I am.
IMDb will eventually say, but yes.
Yes, but I'll eventually slip up because you're like, well, he's older than some people, but he is younger than some buildings. So.
What I also feel like really helped, like with Disney, get into where they're at now. It's like, yes, their movies do appeal to kids, but they also have that appeal factor to teenagers and also to adults as well, which is why that I feel like so many of their movies have remained popular for so long, is because then they can pass it on to their kids and their kids.
Yeah. I think you're right there. There was also another bit of magic, wasn't there, that Disney managed to make innuendo or sort of jokes for adults that were sort of hidden in children's stories, so that the parent that was there watching the movie would also laugh a bit because they would get something that was aimed, primarily at them, really, sort of. Disney managed they straddled that line pretty well.
And not just the stuff that the internet has picked up afterwards.
Yes, well, yeah, of course, obviously that's a thing. But they were trying to give a nod to the adult they know is sat next to the child. It was,
right.
And it's a tough tightrope to walk, that one. But I think they did it. They did it very, very well.
Well, yeah, and all the Disney executives, did a good job to some extent. So.
Yeah, they pushed it. It's not to say they don't make mistakes. I mean, any large company makes mistakes, or they make movies, sort of things. But they still, they retain the magic of some things, and they do things, because they're like recently, well, not recently now, but when they bought Lucasfilm and they started to go into the new, the new iteration of Star Wars. These are tough grounds to crack, right? Because they've been very well trodden. So they did that thing of going, we're going to film most of it practically, like it's all going to be practical sets, practical. We're not going to go down the prequels route of too much blue screen or CGI or things like that. So and fans appreciated that. So they go, yes, they sort of they filmed it on 35mm again. That even though they didn't have to, the sets were real and constructed, and the effects were practical, and they went back to a sort of a retro filmmaking process, really just for the viewer, and whilst they put the old guys in it, so there was nostalgia for us older fans, and then there was a new bunch of heroes, to carry the story on, and that that's an incredibly difficult task and an incredibly expensive, incredibly laborious process to enter for fans. But that's Disney. They could have made that same movie a lot cheaper, a lot, but they didn't. They don't do it that way. So they go, no, we are going to spend $200 million making this thing. Yes, we could make it for $100 million and we'd still be very successful, but that's not what it's about. And that that's part of that is like, well, that's where they need to keep those things going. They need to hire directors and people that push for excellence like that, and I'm a big believer in that.
Oh yeah, definitely, yeah. But yeah, and you really gotta appreciate them for doing that. It's because nowadays doing CGI is a lot cheaper nowadays, and And then that's why with the first Jurassic World, Universal was not sure if that was going to be as big of a hit as they thought that was, and so that's why most of the dinosaurs in that were CGI. But then Jurassic World became the big hit that it was, and so then that meant that they had more money, like to do all the practical effects, like for the sequels. So
yeah, well, you see, but the difference being there is that Universal were cautious. You see, in Disney, Disney aren't cautious. Disney are brave in some way. They go, no, we're gonna, if we're doing this, we're gonna do it right. Sort of.
yeah.
And every now and then they get it wrong. John Carter of Mars. Like they they get it wrong every now and then. But it's just well, okay, but they didn't get it wrong because they didn't try. Or they didn't spend enough money. They often get it wrong because the movie falls differently or something like that.
John Carter, I think it was. No disrespect to Andrew Stanton, but I think hiring a guy who only did animation, giving him the budget. The reports have never come back really, but I think it was like $350 million. That guy never even directed a single frame of live action. I think that big risk, Disney, but okay. And then
that's they take big risks, then they sort of like Disney. That's a Disney-sized risk, but that's sometimes that works and you're right, and sometimes they're like, well, you should have known that, and you're like, well, that's where the creative magic is somewhere in between those two things.
That being said, I would love to see. That being said, though, I would love to see somebody get the rights to the John Carter series because, oh my gosh, that series! I mean, that if somebody did that series right, that could rival Dune right now.
Oh yeah.
Yes, I mean, I'm sure like all great stories, it will come back around.
Yes.
Oh yeah, definitely. So my next question. Thank you so much for answering the other ones, but what was your friends and family's reactions to Mickey's Mousetrap?
Mickey's Mousetrap. They haven't seen the movie just yet, obviously, but they obviously they've seen the trailer. Most of the world has seen the trailer. I will tell you, when we dropped this trailer, my God, did it go? We had 26 million views in 3 days. Wow, it was phenomenal. Spread out in just 48 hours. But it was very topical because in all the news coverage, Disney had just lost the lost the copyright and it had entered public domain. So it was topical for a day anyway. So we were just feeding the news outlets. But it was amazing to us, myself and Jamie Bailey. We did interviews, in Sweden, in Germany, in France, in Japan, in Australia. We did interviews everywhere that week because people were interested to know what the hell we were doing. And what did the family think? I'm not sure. I haven't asked my mother. I will ask her. She's this is not my first crazy foray into movies. So she's as I say, she's used to her son playing dress up for a living. So this is not unusual, this amount of attention, but it's just usually for different reasons because I'm in a movie with Bruce Willis or I'm in a movie or in a TV show with Arnold Schwarzenegger or The Witcher or all those things that come with a lot of publicity anyway. But this one was, I guess, was slightly different. But I mean, I'm sure they're fine with it.
Yeah. Prayers definitely for Bruce Willis right now, though. So
what's that?
Prayers definitely for Bruce Willis right now with what he's going through.
Oh yeah.
Yes, I mean it's there was a time when I was doing I did 2 pictures with Bruce Willis and in one of them I got a lovely role thanks to the director James, who let me improvise like a couple of scenes with Bruce Willis, which was like my boyhood hero. Like, I mean, I was just like, I wanted to just call everyone I went to school with and go, yeah, I'm just doing a scene with John McClane, so I'm gonna have to call you back, and just hang on the phone. And people were like, oh, Bruce Willis does too many movies, like he's, and there was a time he was doing a lot, and now, I have something that money can't buy, sort of. I was like, I'm glad I did those pictures with him, because number one, he's a fantastic person, and number 2, he's a very talented actor. But number 3, like I said, they're not making those guys anymore. Like they're not making the Schwarzeneggers, the Stallones, the Bruce Willises. They're a dying breed. Sort of. They're getting older, and there's no one behind them. They're not making the action star like they used to, for sure.
The closest is nowadays is probably Scott Adkins.
Yeah, I mean, Scott Adkins. I like Scott Adkins, but I don't know if he will, and I don't mean that this is no, this is not me denigrating Scott Adkins at all or his talent, but I don't know if he's ever going to reach the height of Bruce Willis or Van Damme or any of them, because I don't think it's actually I don't think it's possible for someone to be that sort of star anymore. Even Jason Statham and stuff like that. I don't think it's possible for them to climb as high as their predecessors. These mega stars of action movies. I don't think that's possible for these guys. Because not because of their talent, but the industry has changed. But there's no room for the Stallones or Schwarzeneggers anymore. The whole thing is a bit more, sort of manufactured. But because of that, they're not quite the level of stars. Think about it. Your grandmother probably knew who Schwarzenegger was, but she's not going to know who Scott Adkins is. She's not going to know who Statham is.
True.
You might recognize their faces, but whether you watched action movies or not, you knew who Schwarzenegger was. You knew who Bruce Willis was. You knew who Sylvester Stallone was, whether you watched the movies or not. And that level of fame is, that's Michael Jackson level of fame. It's Britney Spears level. I'm not sure they do it anymore. It's Elvis level of fame.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the closest is as far as stars now. It's just more so music people now, really. But
you've still got Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt. You still have a few megastars A-lists out there. Denzel Washington. You have a few, but they're you find that they're they're aging. You're not getting. We're not getting the new Robert De Niro's, the new Al Pacinos. We're not getting massive stars. We're getting. There are so many good actors out there for sure, but Hollywood isn't churning out, those sort of level of stars, sort of anymore. I guess it's bad for business or something like that. But they're not making them like that anymore.
I'll say one guy who I think does have potential in the industry right now, Glenn Powell. He was the Val Kilmer rival character in Top Gun. He's also in the new Twister.
Yeah. Mate, when you first said his name, I didn't know who that was, and I'm in the business. To me, it's not the same.
I think he's definitely a star on the rise. That could be.
I mean it more like I don't think it's possible for any star to reach that height anymore, because I don't think that height exists anymore. It belongs to Tom Cruise and it belongs to Harrison Ford and stuff. Those, whilst they're still around, whilst they're still making movies, it belongs to them. But there's no one really filling their shoes. There are big stars. There's Chris Pratt and Chris Hemsworth and some. There are big stars, but they're not going to achieve the title of, of that mega star status that existed in the 80s and 90s. Pre-internet. So that doesn't. These guys are holding on to accolades, that they had from before the internet. Nowadays I don't think that's possible.
Right.
Yeah, and it just shows how much times have changed and all that. So yeah, I mean, it's a shame, but it is what it is. It's just part of the business.
It is. Yeah.
But yeah, thank you so much. So yeah, I do understand the movie isn't out yet, so you probably can't talk too much. But now, if you're allowed to talk about this, but yeah, if not, we will move on. Are there any talks of a sequel?
You plead the fifth?
Yes, there are talks of a sequel. There are talks of a sequel of bringing back, Mickey and perhaps Minnie and other people. Anyway, I'm not going to say anything else.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's totally fine. And I mean, Minnie, of course, was in the original short, that became public domain. And so, yeah, you totally could use her too. But yeah, just got to tread carefully.
Yeah. Well, they could also use Harold Horsecollar and Clarabelle Cal in it too.
There's a few, things. I think, if there was a sequel, I think you would find Mickey surrounded by a lot of his friends that are in public domain, and I mean that outside maybe the Disney universe.
You could have Pete.
You could have a ton of people.
Yeah.
Think bigger than Disney. There's a ton. There's a world of public domain characters out there.
Popeye.
Popeye, there you go.
He's going to be public domain next year.
That's right. Yes.
And actually,
Right.
actually, people don't really know this too much. In the 1930s, Popeye was actually more popular than Mickey.
Oh yeah.
Yes. Well, he developed faster, didn't he? Sort of. But I mean, obviously, Mickey took the lead like sustainably. You know, sort of. Popeye was a bit popular. You know, sort of.
So,
it's a bit. Popeye is always a bit like Betty Boo. You know, sort of. It was very popular for 1 minute. You know, sort of for a time, but didn't have any sustainability behind it.
The Fleischers were definitely with their animation was. You look at it now, like what a world they created. I mean, because those were definitely kids, but those were definitely more adult. Like honestly, I'm not that I'm comparing them, but like that was more like the Simpsons of its day, the Fleischers cartoons, in some ways.
Yes, but it must have been a very strange world, where people were like, "Do you want to make cartoons come to life?" Sort of, and they're like, "You mean like just like film?" And you're like, no, not film. Like, we'll call it animation. Like, why wouldn't we? What do you mean with a camera? And they go, yeah. Why wouldn't we just make a movie then? And you're like, yeah. I mean, yeah, but we could just draw it. And you're like, okay. Like it must have been a really brand new world thinking, but why? I was like, kids will love it. Kids haven't got any money. What do you mean? Sort of. It must have been like these guys must have been actual trailblazers. Like, they reinvented. What we think entertainment is, sort of. It must have been like, in that sense, super exciting. And obviously, we look back at it now, it's pretty rough around the edges, sort of. But it's like, well, yes, but there was like before it, there was nothing, it was like what,
There's even stuff with like, the big mascot in the 1920s was Felix the cat,
That's right, yeah.
And like Felix, they did not know that film. They did not know that was going to be successful to the point where the first cartoon, Felix, literally. Cartoons used to be dark back then. Like Felix.
Yeah,
he literally kills himself. Felix in the first cartoon.
Oh yeah, well, if you guys have actually sat down and watched Steamboat Willie.
Yeah,
Mickey Mouse is like torturing animals in the whole thing and laughing about it as well while he does it.
Yeah,
sort of. It's a little darker than it's. You wouldn't. If they were remaking it now, they would not be remaking it like that. For sure.
No,
definitely not.
No, because a certain group that shall not be named will probably go after Mickey for animal cruelty. Sticking a pitchfork in a whore.
Yeah, like it just wouldn't happen anymore. Like there's lots of.
By the way, try winding a cow's tail and see what happens to you.
Yeah, I think most people know I wouldn't stand behind a cow and pull its tail. That seems like an injury on its way to you.
Yeah, you would probably. That sounds like nowadays. Sounds like something like Beavis and Butthead would do. So
yeah, exactly.
And then they would sit there, wind the cow's tail, and then they would get kicked below the belt. So
indeed.
But yeah, that just shows just how much times have changed, and sensibilities have changed. So it's funny how that stuff works. But yeah, what movie inspired you to become an actor?
Oh, I don't know. That's a good question. My mother was an actress, so I think it was more in the family genes. That I was, my mother was like an actress that was never very successful, to be brutally honest. So I saw her as a frustrated actress. So a part of me, I think it does this to live out her dream a little bit. That she, I think she wishes that she could have done perhaps what I did. But I took a lot of that creativity definitely from my mother. It was from that side of the family for sure.
Awesome. But yeah, it's just one of those things like where it's just passed on to, it's just passed on through generations then.
I guess, it's one of those, it's hard to, when people go, well, why do you do what you do? Sometimes, in my example there, they go, well, my mother was an actress. Actually, she wasn't really an actress. She just really wanted to be, and she tried, but she just never got her break. She never got a full stab at doing it. She did plenty of theater and stuff like that, but she never got a real full run at it. Sort of partially probably because she had 3 kids. Sort of it was probably a bit more difficult in that day than it would be now. But I mean, so when they say, well, where do you get inspiration for it? I said, well, that made me want to sort of finish her work. But maybe if my mother had been Judi Dench, if she'd been a very successful actress, maybe I wouldn't have wanted to be an actor. Sort of it might have gone the other way. So it's funny because you never know how how I guess children are going to perceive motivation. Going, I either will do this or I won't do this. Sort of. So yeah.
Right. Well, I mean, Eric here is about to get it. Hopefully, about to get into SAG. So.
Yeah.
Oh, you're gonna get SAG.
Yeah, and it's an interesting story about how that happened. I mean, it happened on Valentine's Day of all days. Oh, awesome! You got your SAG card. Awesome, dude.
Oh, I've been a SAG member for a few years. Yeah, sort of now.
Well, why don't you talk? As you were going to tell, you were going to tell the story. So.
Sorry, go on.
Yeah. So it was on Valentine's Day a year ago. Actually, I was making phone calls. Just to see which actor I'm an actor with a little bit higher profile. I would be interested in being in the movie that Junebug and I are making. And then finally I landed on Judy Fox, who is the agent of Kane Hodder. And then obviously
I know Judy very well.
Oh, awesome!
She's a friend of mine. Yeah.
Awesome.
She's also George Romero's agent.
What?
Oh, awesome! I had no idea about that, but yeah, I mean, I made a good enough impression on her. And then she was saying legally Kane can only do unionized productions, but however, I'm gonna give you the contact information to be a part of SAG, and yeah, I was just about to join, and then that whole deal with Hollywood went down. I was like, man, it was bad timing, but yet I also do understand why that they did all that. It's because the actors wanted better pay and the whole thing with artificial intelligence. So I was like, it sucks it happened right when I was about to get in, but hey, my future self will be very happy.
Everything happens for a reason, I'll tell you, mate. Like a job you didn't get, or a project you didn't do is the universe helping you out somehow. You just don't know it yet. Like even the failures we have as filmmakers or actors, there's a reason it happens to you, but all you need is enough perspective, to see, I did that movie, but then I never did that again. And that led me to this. And then, or on that terrible movie I did, I met this guy, and then we went off to do another project, so you find hidden, hidden sort of paths there, sort of, but aren't very obvious at the time, but become obvious later.
Well, you were nervous too, and I just gave you some advice that you knew already. You want to say the advice?
Yeah. So the advice is everyone poops.
Yeah.
It's
don't stress it. Something like with this. In this game a little bit, as it were, or in the business, the race is a bit long there. Sometimes you're ahead, sometimes you're behind. That's okay. It's a pretty long race. Sort of, it's not measured by anything but yourself, really. So you keep go at your own pace and just keep going. That's the real enemy is giving up. Sort of.
Oh, definitely, yeah. And I mean, heck, there are plenty of examples out there, of actors who made it later on in life, say Samuel L. Jackson and Morgan Freeman. So
yeah, I mean, think of all these great people. Some of these guys are like you said, Anthony Hopkins. Nobody knew Anthony Hopkins before, Hannibal. Sort of Silence of the Lambs. But in reality, him and Morgan Freeman, they've been acting 25 years already. They just found their slots, their time. And people go, well, they were lucky. They weren't lucky. They were just doing it for a while, and they were in the right place for a long time, and then eventually, obviously, they got their shot.
Karloff.
Yeah,
he didn't get his start till he was 44. I mean, even Bela Lugosi, when he was 40 till he was 49.
Yeah. There's a bunch of, And when you look into it, going, oh man, these guys, anybody successful, you tend to see, with a rare exception, but anybody very successful, you go, God, like if you're ever watching Breaking Bad and people think, oh well, sort of Bryan Cranston just like killed it, just came out of nowhere, and you're like, Bryan Cranston had been doing stuff for like 25 years, sort of. He was in Malcolm in the Middle, like he cropped up in an episode of the X-Files. He was everywhere, like, and nowhere at the same time, sort of. And he just, but most people think, oh, the guy that did Breaking Bad, but he must be there again. Well, I did so much to get to Breaking Bad, sort of. But then Breaking Bad is like a lightning rod to his career and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But anybody, I think you find if you look at anybody you like professionally, you investigate it, the chances of it that the first film that you saw them in, the first film that blew up their profile, being the first thing that they did is very unlikely. You find out, oh, these guys did a ton of theater, or they did a ton of other movies and other work, or before the one that I spotted them in, before the one that made them famous, sort of. And I do believe that, sort of. You must keep going.
Oh, definitely, yeah. And then hearing the story about your mom actually reminds me of the story that I heard about Jim Carrey. Like from what I heard, Jim Carrey's father could have been a very good comedian, but then instead he got a safe job and that didn't work out. And then unfortunately his father didn't make it. But then Jim and then decided that he was gonna take all of the mistakes that his father learned and then tried to make that wrong into a right. And well, look at where he's at now. So
yeah.
Well, it was one of the. I think that story, doesn't it, as well, with Jim Carrey, is that his father. I thought it was a magician. He was his father, not a comedian. But anyway, whatever it was, his dad left for the safe job, and then he got made redundant for, like, he was an accountant or something, and then he got made like redundant for being an accountant. And his message to his son was like, "Look, man, like I gave up my dream for the safe job." And then the safe job made me redundant. So, you can fail at anything in life. You may as well fail at something you love.
Yeah.
I
definitely.
mean, dreams can come true.
They can, sort of, and they're just, what it is, people say dreams can come true. It's that you just need to work at them, sort of, because one day, like if I take myself as an example of this, if somebody had told me as a young 21-year-old boy in drama school that I would have done movies with Van Damme, Bruce Willis, Arnold Schwarzenegger, like I wouldn't have believed it. That would have been a dream to me. Now that I'm at that place, obviously I've got, your dreams are always ahead of you, going, oh, I hope I do this, I hope I do that, sort of type thing. But really, there's no, what people, people go, well, dreams can come true. But what happens there is it tends to make people believe that they should buy a lottery ticket. And you're like, well, you can't just hope dreams come true. You have to kind of work at them slowly, a little bit, every day. Just keep moving forward. It doesn't have to be very fast, sort of. A lot of the best things in life take a while, sort of. So that's the way to keep going.
Do you ever get to work with Dolph?
No, I haven't got to. So here's my bit. Somebody was saying, well, Dolph Lundgren. I was like, now hold on. I was like, I'll go with this. Dolph Lundgren wasn't. I would obviously love to do. Let me start by saying I'd love to do a movie with Dolph Lundgren, but he doesn't count as my 80s icons because he didn't have his name over the title in any 80s movie. I don't believe. Sort of. He was like with Van Damme or he was with Stallone, but the big names there were Van Damme, Stallone. Sort of. Dolph Lundgren, even correct me if I'm wrong, didn't ever really carry a big franchise. I mean, he might have been the big name in some separate movies, but I don't recall any one movie being.
I don't know about I don't know about franchises. He did. He was. I mean, besides the straight to DVD stuff that he did, his most popular movies, he's usually the villain. So.
Well, yeah, that's why I don't count Dolph Lundgren in with those guys. Sort of as like. Like sort of like I've also done like a picture with Mel Gibson and stuff like that, but I don't count Mel Gibson in with those guys because I don't particularly think of Mel Gibson as an action star. I know that he did action movies, doing the Lethal Weapon stuff and everything like that. He's much of an action star as Bruce Willis is in some respects. but sort of I think of it differently. So I don't know.
Right.
Hey, listen, guys, I'm completely wrong on lots of things. Don't worry, it won't offend me if I'm wrong on this one.
I'm just trying to think back, like at least his theatrical films that like where he was the star, where it said Lundgren. Because I don't think Red Scorpion. It didn't advertise him that much.
Well, no, he was He-Man in Masters of the Universe. That's the one That's the only one I think. But obviously that failed as a franchise. Now I really like that movie.
I do too.
Cool.
I do too.
So it should have got the sequel it deserved. In fact, that's the one that ends with the hand coming out of the ashes, and sort of
right.
So your Skeletor does live at the end of it.
Well, I think I know they wrote a sequel, but Dolph wasn't going to be in it. I think it was some surfer guy or something that was going to be in it. That like.
Yeah, I mean, it was sort of, but I mean, you had to get on board with Masters of the Universe. So it's like, yeah, it was like sort of.
I like Masters of the Universe.
I like Masters of the Universe. Listen, I've got a lot of love for Masters of the Universe. I thought if you were going to make He-Man a live-action He-Man in the '80s, bear in mind the sort of limitations they had. That was a very cool way to do it. Bring it into, that's what they had to do with those movies, wasn't it? They had to bring fantasy to sort of 90s America because that was sort of cheaper to do it that way, and then everybody could react to this thing. But it was a bit like Star Trek, where with the one where they went to San Francisco, they went back in time, but obviously they conveniently went back time to the 80s, sort of when it was being made. For the voyage home, sort of, and obviously the place they time traveled to was, modern America at the time, 1987 San Francisco, and that's obviously it's a bit of a cheat, isn't it? Because you're like, oh well, okay, it was a good job they didn't go anywhere else, because but that's what they were doing, and that was a great way to make fantasy collide with reality and sort of make it, make these fantastic movies, on a sort of realistic budget, like because they were like, well, we can't, He-Man and Masters of the Universe is a bit big, we have to kind of make them trapped on Earth. We have to make it small, and that's how we make it. We can do some big things, but we can't do, we can't do everything. Otherwise, it'll break us. So.
Yeah, but yeah, the only movie I could think of from the around the 80s, besides He-Man, like that had his name above the title, I believe it was the Punisher movie that he was in. But however, that is more of a cult movie, so I don't know if you can really count that one.
See, I mean, listen, I'm on Dolph Lundgren's side. I just don't know that it's ever. Do you know what I mean? I don't know that there's in order for it to qualify, it's got to have something that like spawned sequel, like Stallone always had Rocky, and he obviously has Expendables and stuff like that. Schwarzenegger had Terminator. There were all of the big guys. Van Damme, is maybe one of the other, but he had incredibly, like Universal Soldier had sequel, just not with him in it. Sort of, and then he came back for I guess a part 3 or something like that. But sort of but it was a legit franchise, so it was like, well, he did kickstart a franchise, sort of whether he was in the remaining films or not. And Dolph Lundgren, I don't believe he had that success. Not lack of skill or anything like that, just didn't get that shot.
But Time Cop definitely should have been Van Damme's franchise. Like I would love to. Be cool to
Time Cop was amazing. So and how that didn't make more movies was. Listen, I was a sucker for Van Damme stuff. I liked Sudden Death, Time Cop. All that. Universal Soldier. I loved all that.
Can we get? We need to have somebody. I think Universal sold the rights. I think it's Warner Brothers that owns the rights now to Time Cop. So if it is Warner Brothers or Universal has it right now, the rights issues with Time Cop are a mess. So whoever's watching this, can we get a legacy sequel to Time Cop? And then I would even say they made the sequel Jason Scott Lee. Have them both in it. I know the timeline might not add up, but
it might not. But have you noticed like lately, like with the multiverse, nobody cares.
Yeah, well, and it's time travel, so it makes sense multiverse. And then
it does. People that are concerned with the rules of the world, when it's time, you're like, well, right, we're already in sci-fi.
And then cast Simon as the bad guy.
Yeah,
I mean, I support this.
Yes.
So. Definitely. So yeah, thank you so much for answering that. So Do you have any interest in not just acting, but do you have any interest in directing a film?
I've directed a few films.
Okay.
I like
Okay,
the whole
awesome.
process. I've produced. Produced, write, direct. Sort of. I try. When I'm not working, I like actually on a set for people's movies. I love to work on scripts and stuff like that. It keeps me not waiting for the phone to ring. To be honest, so it does.
There you go.
I've got my little cabin in the woods, sort of, and I just write and I produce, like just put stuff
Well,
projects together. I put, I try and link up directors with actors, and try and put the whole thing together if I can.
yeah.
I do lots of that all the time. Yeah.
Well, that's
Awesome.
cool. Well, Eric and I, we were inspired by this. I don't really know what to call it, the public domain horror thing that's going on right now.
Yeah.
Uh, we thought, well, what can we do? Eric, do you want to tell them what we were thinking?
So
Go
yeah,
on.
so we both realized that the Boris Karloff and Bela Lugosi Dracula and Frankenstein will be public domain in a few years, so him and I decided to do a legacy sequel to that, and we're gonna do Dracula versus the Frankenstein monster.
Oh no! Well, they're Dracula and Frankenstein are both in public domain already.
Yeah.
Yes, but only the books. But
Well, I shall tell you right now, sir. Only the books is all you need. You can do any version of Dracula, like even one that exists more recently, because it's based on the book. The book is in copyright. The book is the if it's a literary, like Winnie the Pooh is not under the same protection that Mickey Mouse is, because Winnie the Pooh was a book first, and as soon as the book popped into public domain, everything is fair game, so it's fair use. So with Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, Bram Stoker's Dracula, those books are both in public domain already. So I believe you can already do that movie. I mean, not that makes it a bad idea, but you don't need to wait to do it. Just go ahead and do it.
Well, we're planning on it. Just Eric, you have to finish the other two movies first, and
I do, yeah, and it's just that whenever people hear the name Frankenstein, even though that's not what the monster is called, but regardless, the first thing that comes to people's mind is the Boris Karloff one with the bolt on the neck and the flat head, and so basically, I want to.
Frankenstein is the doctor's name, is it not?
Yeah. And so people often think that the monster's name is the doctor, but no, but that's actually not the case at all.
Yeah.
So,
and we already have the monster casted. It's a local actor here in Kansas, who he is. We actually broke the Guinness Book of World Records for the tallest actor ever play the monster. The guy is 7'7".
7'7". Wow.
Yeah.
Well, good for you guys. I should be expecting my call for my scene in this movie, by the way.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. Well,
I'd love to make it down to Kansas.
Hey, he's in England. You're in England, so we would
I'm a
love
Brit.
to
If you're making anything in relation to Frankenstein or Bram Stoker's Dracula, how you haven't touched up a Brit for any of these things is amazing to me.
Well, we would love to. We actually would love to get Hammer involved, because I know Hammer is back.
Yeah, Hammer is back. Yeah, I think they were just quiet for a few years, So, but Hammer Horror is
Yeah, Hammer Horror is back, so we would like to have Hammer get involved somehow too. Honestly,
I thought I'm supposed to. I think I'm one of the guys that I'm seeing is actually Hammer Horror. So next, I'm sure you guys know about this, but in Ohio, in Cincinnati, next weekend is the Horror Hound Film Festival, which is the America's only horror only Comic-Con, and I believe Hammer films are going to be there.
Mm-hmm.
So anybody who is subscribed to Junebug Films and Beer Thaler Studios in Ohio, go and see if you guys can help us get in contact with them. Because
you guys should make it a bit. Wait, how far? Kansas isn't that far from Ohio. Just being lazy. Jump in a car.
Long walk.
But yeah, so anyways, thank you so much for answering that. So, when do you think that we could see Mickey's Mousetrap be released?
I believe that it's July the 4th. Yes.
Oh,
it is,
July 4th, huh?
So because you know what, Mickey Mouse is gaining his independence on Independence Day. It all works. That's why we're doing that. Yeah, that is why we're doing that. Yes, that's what they've told me. I mean, I'm not in charge of these things. I'm just being relayed these messages from the distributor. So, but yeah, I believe that's what. Well, we were joking about that, but that is the actual reason. Yeah, that is the actual reason. Yeah.
So that could be like part of the new trailer.
Well, I'm very excited for it. We already have the trailer made.
Well,
we have
two.
We have the trailer and a viral. I'm so excited to drop the viral. So, but I would, when I do it, I'm going to send it to you guys, and you will see why I'm excited. Bearing in mind what we've discussed, I will. That's the thing. I'll remind you of the chat that we had, and then you watch the viral.
Well, we will. Awesome. Well, we will. That could be part of the trailer. The Independence Day.
That's it. Mickey's in a sort of ID4 type.
Right.
We're thinking of something. We'll think of something dramatic. All
right. Too bad. Too bad. Like Mick. Too bad Mickey doesn't. Blow up the White House or something. But oh well.
Yeah. Anyway. All right. Yeah. It is too bad that doesn't happen. All right.
Yeah,
I can't say anything else. I can't. If I'm going to get more trouble, you guys are going to land me in a lot of trouble if I keep divulging state secrets to you.
Oh, well, Eric, do I need to get the duct tape for you?
No, you can ask me. I just got to stop saying it.
Yeah.
This is why they don't let me do too many of these things.
But yeah, and also to make myself clear, my intent certainly is not to get you in trouble. So.
No, that's okay. Listen, when I did this before, mate, when I did Fubar or you know what was worse than Fubar was The Witcher. There's The Witcher has got and I don't know what to say about it because they were like, you can do these interviews, and I was so nervous to even say I was in the show. I was like, and I didn't even know. I was looking I say, you couldn't give any stories away. You couldn't say anything about anything, and it was 4 pages of stuff that you could and couldn't say. And I was like, man, if I say the wrong thing, someone's going to knock at my door. And the only way that I'll know what it is if it's The Witcher, I'll get stabbed with some sort of ornate-looking knife. Or if it's Fubar, I'll be CIA style, saying the wrong thing. And I was like, don't give away any of the plots, any of the,
So yeah, well, just be thankful you're not in you're not in Star Wars or something, because
I know, but it was like The Witcher's like that. Right? When you make The Witcher, I'll tell you this. I'm pretty sure he's in it now. It's not called The Witcher. When you make it, it's called this was called Everybody's Enemy. And I was like, but this is The Witcher, right? And they're like, yeah, but we don't say that. And but I was in the studio, in Longcross Studios in London, where the show is filmed. And I was like, and everybody in the studio works on The Witcher. There's nobody in the place that doesn't work on the show. The whole thing is The Witcher. They're still calling it Everybody's Enemy. Even when you get the call sheet to tell you where to go, it has Everybody's Enemy written at the top. It doesn't have Witcher at the top.
Sounds like a James Bond movie.
It's just mad. And you're like, this is just nuts.
Well, I mean, I think they've always done that. Like Friday the 13th, one of the Friday the 13th movies was called Aladdin Sane or something like that.
Yes, I mean they do that, don't they? Wasn't it Star Wars was Blue Harvest, wasn't it, or something? The sequel. Yeah. It was another person, but once they started learning that it was Star Wars, they're like, the price tripled for everything,
right?
It was really successful. But I was confused about why The Witcher had to do that because everybody was already in the studio, so it was like, well, we don't have to keep calling it that in here. It doesn't need to say it on the call sheets. And they're like, oh well, we just say it everywhere.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, thank you so much for answering that. So besides Mickey's Mousetrap, is there anything else that you want to plug in?
Assuming he can talk about it.
Okay, so there's one thing I can talk about, which I was going to send you guys. Hold on. I was going to send you guys a link to. I thought this is. I'm going to put it in our chat, right? Which is a campaign for a series called De-Influencer. So we've released a movie called De-Influencer, which I should have had. I should have had the DVD right here. That would have been very good. But we've made part 2 on it, and we are sort of getting together part 2 and part 3 indeed, to make it Canada's first ever horror trilogy. And what we're doing is not a crowdfunder, but it's a crowd investment thing. So, like, unlike Kickstarter or Indiegogo, when you're raising money, you donate your $50 or $100,
Right.
and then you get a T-shirt or something like that. But it's the thing. This we've decided to do through a site called WeFunder. It's actually a crowd investment site. So when you put your $100 into this one, you actually own a piece of the movie. Now you get credits, obviously, and everything like that, but you actually own a piece of the profit. So I was encouraging people, anybody that wants to get into films, I'm like, oh, well, get involved in my thing that's crowdfunding. You throw some money into it, and if you throw some money into it, you get credits. And when you're trying to make other movies, people like to see that you have a good IMDb of movies that have been released.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's sort of safety in numbers. So that's, like distributors and everything go, oh, well, he produced, he was the co-producer on this or the exec producer on this. Now you can be an exec producer, for $500, sort of, do you know what I mean? Sort of it's, so people don't, and obviously that means there's 50 exec producers, but nobody really cares about that because it's, as long as the movie is out there and it's very saleable, sort of, it looks like you've got a good credit on your IMDb, which helps you which helps you do your own thing. So it's like it feeds itself. Plus, it's not wasted money. You own a slice of the movie, so you get to see behind. You get, as filmmakers, you get to see. Well, who are the people that distribute the movie? You get contacts because you're like, oh, then you can approach the company going, hey, you distributed my movie, De-Influencer 2, sort of, and that will be, and you'll be, because you'll be one of the execs on it, that would be true, sort of, so, and you would be reflected that. So I'm trying to encourage crowd investment, I guess, is what it is. It's not crowdfunding, but sort of, and you don't try and get $5,000 off one people, you try and get, $500 off 10 people, sort of, and it's all of a sudden a lot more manageable, and people go, oh, I might, throw something into that. And then I've got, it's like buying stocks. It's like, well, if the movie's very good, you make a profit on it, sort of, and it's sort of a way of sort of spread betting. But that's my latest thing. So I'd love to plug it with you guys.
Right with Eric, copy and paste the link, send it to me, and then that'll be down in the comments down below.
Yes, if you can
in the video,
magically put it underneath here somewhere.
It'll be down below in the comments because I would say description, but hardly anybody checked the description anyway, just so it'll be in the comments. So
just in the yes, that's right. Yeah.
All right, awesome. But yeah, I greatly appreciate you sharing that. It's because as me and Junebug here, I found out one of the hardest parts about filmmaking is to get your film funded in the.
It is, this is, I do some talks on this, and this is part of the. I mean, obviously, this is self-serving to me at the moment, but like, sort of, I always encourage people. I was like, when you're starting out on your filmmaking journey, when treat it like a business, sort of, and I co-produce with other people to get credits, to get experience, to get contacts. Do that a lot, I mean, you can, I'm pushing my link at the moment, but there are others. You can go on Kickstarter and you can go on Indiegogo and you can find people making movies, and if you throw some support behind it, they involve you in the process. They give you credits, and within 6 months, you can have a lot of stuff. And you have to have the ability to learn from it. Like not just, oh, I'm just going to donate and then walk away. Sort of, pick up your, sort of, ask. You get updates about the movie. You're entitled to your thing. You can visit the sets. You can, you have all sorts of stuff, and you can use that to build on your own stuff. Lots of people have got their own script and go, well, I'm trying to get this project funded, and you're like, okay, but in order to do when people fund, there's one of the first rules I tell people: when people fund your project, they are not funding the project; they are funding you. Sort of, you're the thing they're funding, and they don't really care what the project is. I mean, they do a little bit, but really, when they're asking you questions, when they're on the phone with you, when they're Zooming with you, or they're meeting with you, they are wondering, if I give this guy $20,000, is he going to go and waste it and make something, and they're trying to work that out as they're talking to you. That's what they're going, that's what they're looking at, that's what they're doing. So people go, well, I've put it all into a pitch deck or a script or something like that, and you're like, those things are actually secondary. The person wants to see you. So if you are that's why I say there's sort of safety in numbers. If you get a few credits in this fashion, it can sometimes give you a bit of a jump start because people, investors don't know how involved. If you say I'm the exec producer on Simon's new De-Influencer film, they don't know how involved or not you are, and then that's up to you. You have your way into the audience, and then then the room is yours. But at least you get a seat at the table.
Well, that's something I was trying to do, is start an actual media company, and Eric was making movies, so I just partnered up with him.
Like even at my level, right? I just partner up with other people. I partner up with Horror Hound. I partner up with I'm making a horror movie, so I partner up with the Horror Hound, the sort of Comic-Con thing I was telling you about in Ohio, and I go to that to. I go to just do the photographs and stuff like that, but I do a Q&A panel on funding features, funding movies, like how it's done. Like I've produced. I'm an actor, right? I've been doing this for 25 years, but I've made over 50 movies. And I've made 50 movies by they go, well, how did you do that? And you're like, yeah, by doing it like this, by partnering with other, it's not all me, I did it the same way. I was a small part of a lot of things, and then that led to bigger stuff, and then I got my own stuff done, but it doesn't have to, people are going, I'm just looking for the guy that's able to give me $100,000 right now. I was like, that's tough, because you start with nothing and you want the lottery win, and there's nothing in between. The guys like to see stuff in between,
Yeah, you're not going to get the, you're not going to go on Shark Tank and then go fund your movie.
That's right. And the problem is that people think that they can. It's like, I just need to get in front of the right guy, and then he's going to give me a check for $1 million.
Yeah.
And that's not, and that very rarely happens.
Yeah,
so when that doesn't happen, you still want to move the dial forward. So you go, right, if I can't get on Shark Tank and I can't pitch my movie and I'm not going to get $1 million, then how else can I do it? And then that's this way, it's slower, it's sort of thing. But you know what? In a couple of years, you're sat in a cinema at the premiere of your movie, and they go, wow, how did that happen? And you're like, well, slowly, so that slowly is the fastest way to get to somewhere you want to be.
Oh yeah, even Walt Disney. Let's look at him as an example. Steamboat Willie obviously was a success, but he didn't really become fully successful, honestly, until Snow White, when he made features, because nobody believed in Snow White.
They didn't believe in any of those things. And not be funny, Disney's big money wasn't in the movies. It was
because people thought that your eyes would bleed if you watched too much animation back in the day, and that's true.
That's what they said about television, wasn't it? Yeah.
And so they thought, nobody believed in Snow White, and then that movie cost I think $2 million, something like that, because I think it went over budget. $2 million, and it made $490 million at the box office or something like that.
Yeah, that's the thing, is like, people aren't a believer in your movie, right? And this is one of these annoying things, So right, I don't know if you can believe this, right? But there was a time when I was very secretly talking about making Mickey Mouse. Obviously, I'm the producer on Mickey Mouse as well. And I had people that didn't think it was a good idea. They were like, I'm not sure. And you're like, because you're worried that Disney are going to sue us and we'll never release the movie. And they're like, no, I'm just not sure it's a good idea. And I thought they were mad. And I was like, I don't even really want to tell too many people this idea, because I'm worried that they're all going to go and make their own movie because they can, I don't control the idea, I just control the idea, as long as I've got it. I was like, but my plan is to drop the trailer for Mickey Mouse on January 1st. The first day I can drop it. So I've got to shoot it in September, last year. And, all that work. And I had people that backed out on us, finances, and I was asking them for $5,000, so I wasn't asking them for a lot of money. And they backed out of it. And those guys ring all the time, and go, I don't suppose I can get, you haven't released the movie yet. Can I buy? And you're like, well, no, the movie's done now. So me and Jamie, who own the picture, we're like, well, no, I needed your help, in September last year, and now we're, now they're like, we were going to make a lot of money. I was like, we were always going to make a lot of money on this one, always. That, I thought it was mad that anybody couldn't see the commercial potential in this. To me, that was nuts.
I love, that's one thing Eric and I were talking about. The Winnie the Pooh movie started kind of a train of people where they were, making these horror movies based on like fairy tales and all this other, all public domain stuff. And I was saying, these are kind of more true to actual fairy tales in a way.
Well, actually, like it's funny because you're talking about Sleeping Beauty and stuff like this. Like people are going, well, just because this is in public domain, Simon, maybe you shouldn't make. You can't just take another character and just make whatever you want. And I was like, I mean, I hope you're kidding, because that's exactly what Disney did. Sort of a like Sleeping Beauty, or these are the Grimm's fairy tales. Disney didn't invent these.
Well,
and
even before that, a lot of the Grimm fairy tales are just the popular ones. Before that, Charles Perrault collected stories.
Right. So that they're all stories that have already been told. So they were like, well, Mickey Mouse is, and they're like, yes, but I mean, Disney made most of its money probably not off Mickey Mouse's, to tell the truth, but it probably made money off of other. I mean, it made money off the parks anyway. That was
that's Disney's main source of income is the parks, because there's 5 parks now.
Yeah, I mean that's their thing, but their movies are, in terms of revenue, are not nearly as profitable as the parks, I think.
Yeah, I mean the
parks prop up the movies quite a lot.
I mean, they more make money off the cast, the Sleeping Beauty castle, and
yes, exactly. But I mean that's it. People going, well, you shouldn't do that, and I was like, but that's what Disney did. It was a good idea. They turned Grimm's fairy tales and other fairy tales into movies, and they didn't.
I think
the story wasn't their idea, but you can make something your idea. Me making Mickey Mouse a sort of slasher. Well, that's my idea, but anybody can do this, and anybody should. I was shocked on January 1st that not more people had the foresight to make a movie. I was telling my director, Jamie. I was like, we bet each other that there would be 100 projects. We thought we'd be one of, after Winnie the Pooh showed how this could be done, so I was like, yeah, loads of people are going to do this, but we just have to be the first.
I think there is another Mickey Mouse horror movie out there.
Right. There's no other movie that's finished right now. There's people going, I'm making one. I'm going to make one. Nobody has got one right now. Believe me, I am the expert on this. I know the market. I know exactly what we're doing. There are loads of people saying they're going to make one. Indeed, loads of people said that in January they said, yeah, I'm going to make one. And you're like, right, okay, but nobody has actually got the balls to go out and make one. Until they not been funny, until they saw that we did it and Disney didn't challenge us.
Yeah,
that's what they were doing, is waiting to see what happened to us. They go, let's see if Disney give them some sort of cease and desist order, and they pull that YouTube link down and blah blah blah. And then that never happens. So they go, oh well, now I'm going to make one.
I know there's the video game coming out. So
yes, but the video game also isn't complete. Sort of it's like somebody knocked together a promo in 3 days using AI. You know what I mean? Like sort of it's
let's get a Mickey's Mousetrap video game.
Well, indeed, yeah. I'm supportive of that as well.
And hey, I think Eric, we both like Sega. Let's get Sega to do it. That can bring back
the Sega. Yeah, all you need is find somebody that has a sort of an old beef with Disney. Sega probably the one to do that.
Well, I mean, I did campaign myself once to be the chairman of Disney when Bob Iger was transitioning in 2020, so didn't work out too well, but
that's all right.
I tried, 27 years old, being very bold, but
well, hey, so you got to try these things, right?
Yeah, I thought, hey, throw my hat in the ring.
Why not?
Yeah, but no, that's one of the things is that who knows though. I mean, can't wait for don't want to get you too much in trouble, but hey, can't wait for some of the sequels. Like Donald Duck and Goofy team up with them too.
Donald Duck's got a few more years. He didn't enter the stuff just yet, but he's on the way for sure.
Yeah,
almost. Yeah.
But to be honest, somebody was telling me, they go, you're following Winnie the Pooh's lead, and you're like, well, number one, absolutely. Number two, not really, because you're like. I mean, there's Winnie the Pooh, and then there's Mickey Mouse. And Mickey Mouse is a level above Winnie the Pooh that Winnie the Pooh could only hope to be. Sort of, and we can see that in the numbers of traction and stuff like that. So it just like the push out that Mickey has is not is nothing is astronomical against Winnie the Pooh. It just as a not saying our movie will be better than their movie, but the Mickey icon is just way more powerful than the Winnie the Pooh. Some countries have no idea what Winnie the Pooh is, but everybody knows what Mickey Mouse is.
Exactly.
Well, I think Donald's 2029.
Right.
Goofy is 2027, somewhere around there. I think. Well, it depends. I think because Goofy was not originally called Goofy. I think he was Dippy or something like that. Dippy Dog or something like that.
I believe so.
I don't know.
I'm not sure.
Where he was just an old dog. And then who knows? I mean, I know that now there's even talks of the Oswald horror film now.
I mean, I don't. I mean, look, we're in a very. This is like the industry transitioning. Sort of as like this whole subgenre of horror movies is something new that didn't exist before, and that's what makes it exciting. It's like, let's see where this goes. So I don't know where it goes. I don't know where it ends up. I don't know if every character gets their own slasher movie. I don't know. Maybe it does. I'm excited.
I just want to see the Popeye horror movie. That's what I want to see.
The Popeye was always a bit dark anyway, so I can kind of get behind Popeye.
Because I mean, I honestly think the Fleischers, if they were alive today, I mean, I know the studio still exists, but they're more of a merchandising studio now. But I honestly think that knowing those guys, at least the guys who have done research on, they would kind of embrace the horror films a little bit.
Well, indeed. I mean, I don't know, but I think they would. Yeah,
I think they would too, because Popeye was always dark. Like you should watch some of the early cartoons. Popeye was. I mean, Popeye. I mean, he was a sailor, and you knew it sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, yes, he absolutely was.
And I mean, there's some, and then I just want to. Here's my thing, though. I want to know, like Felix the Cat. I think the problem is, the general audience doesn't know who he is much anymore. But I want to see a Felix the Cat horror movie.
A Felix the Cat horror movie? Yeah. I mean, look, man, it's 2024. Anything and everything is possible now.
Hey, maybe I don't know. You could introduce the mouse to the cat or something.
Yeah.
Funny. You sure now? Historically, mice and cat don't get on well.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and think about it. Even a few more years, Tom and Jerry and some of the Looney Tunes are going to go public domain. So. That's
right. They are. They must be about 10 years behind it, right? But they must be.
And some of the Looney Tunes. I mean, there's even some of the early Looney Tunes that are going to be public domain soon. I mean,
for sure. Yeah.
Before Bugs Bunny and Daffy and Porky. So.
Well, those will be the big ones, I'm sure. Obviously, Bugs Bunny will be another.
Although, hey, if who knows if Mickey's Mousetrap becomes a big franchise, maybe we can finally get to see Mickey and Bugs together again instead of just Roger Rabbit.
Yeah, finally, yeah.
That finally the crossover that the universe has been demanding.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
So, well, we don't want to take too much of your time. I don't know how my. If you are going to be busy or you're busy right now, but we
have another call in 10 minutes. 10 minutes? Yeah.
Okay. Well,
we'll
let you go and we'll just do the
perfect.
So thank you for doing this. So
no problem, guys.
Thank you so much.
Let me know if you need anything else, all right?
All right. We certainly will.
All right, bye.
See you later.
Wow. What did you think?
Wow. He definitely seemed like a friendly guy.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be interesting to see. Well, it's going to definitely be interesting if I get a cease and desist by the company that Mr. Wong started. What do you think, Eric? Am I Am I gonna get in trouble?
I hope not.
Oh, darn.
Maybe ask the copyright lawyer, but
I doubt it. I mean, his voice doesn't exactly sound like Mickey, and Eric is stripping for us. All right, well, see you guys.